quick and simple early years online training, you'll learn what oral blending is and how it's an essential skill which prepares children for school. And by the end of the video, you'll be able to orally blend and have some simple steps to explain this with families too. Like these are the popular early years online training videos on this channel, you'll be getting a sneak peek behind the scenes into my high value, jam-packed, ready for reading online course. It includes lifetime access to all of the training videos you'll ever need if you're working with preschoolers. Plus heaps of new ideas and tons of top tips. It'll provide you with all of the answers to your questions about getting preschoolers ready for phonics, which you can find out more about in the description below. So let's get started with this early years online training, which is all about teaching oral blending spectacularly well. Oral blending and segmenting are part of developing phonemic awareness. That's all about an understanding that all words are made up of spoken sounds. When children have got good phonemic awareness, they can hear all of the smallest units of spoken sounds in words. And they can say all of the smallest units of spoken sounds in words. Dog, d, og. So they're very good at being able to take a broken up word and put it back together and break up words themselves, ready for the spelling process. All blending and segmenting build on early alliteration because when children learn to tune into alliteration, they're only listening out for the spoken sounds at the beginning of words. All blending and segmenting build on that, because they require children to hear and say all of the separate sounds in words at the beginning, in the middle and at the end. It's really important to remember, as with all of the chapters in this series, that this isn't about using written letters. This stage of pre-phonic development is all about building confidence in constructing and deconstructing the words that we hear without the added complication of letters, because they're really abstract and we don't want to be throwing letter sounds and those correspondences at the same time as children are learning to hear and say those separate sounds in words. So it's really important that we don't feel like the urgency to rush ahead. That happens when children start school and it happens within their phonics program that's been chosen for the school. So there is no need for us to rush ahead. In fact, we can do more damage if we do. When we are orally blending and segmenting, there is something really, really important that we all need to know. And this won't matter which phonics program children take on next. We as the adults need to say the spoken sounds correctly. We need to make sure that we prepare children well for the phonics learning which follows, because that way they'll be able to pick up the letter sounds quickly because we'll have laid the foundations. We need to be excellent models. We need to demonstrate and encourage pure sounds really, really well. And this is the bit about phonics which really throws people off. So I want to give you a bit of a guided tour now of how to say these separate spoken sounds. Here we've got the letters. Now remember, we're not going to be using these with the children. Adults need to model the correct way to say these without the letters present. So we've got to practice with the letters present as adults, because we can already read. And then when we're using them in everyday practice, this will take a lot of practice and it will take a lot of correction. So you need to make sure if you work on your own, you're listening out for yourself. If you are working with colleagues and with families, you need to be able to help them to know which is the right way to say these letter sound correspondences in words. How I'm going to do it is I'm going to say the letter sound correspondence. I'm going to make the sound and you are going to copy me. Some of these sounds are long and stretchy. So S is a long and stretchy sound. P is unvoiced, P. And some of the sounds like D, D are short and bouncy. You'll remember we practiced this already in the voice sound section. So I just thought it would be a really good idea for us to have one last practice before we move on. So let's go. My turn, S, your turn. My turn, A, your turn. My turn, T, your turn. My turn, P, your turn. My turn, I, your turn. My turn, N, your turn. My turn, your turn. My turn, d, your turn. My turn, o, your turn. My turn, k, your turn. My turn, k, your turn. My turn, k, your turn. My turn, g, your turn. My turn, h, your turn. My turn, eh, your turn. My turn, your turn. My turn, your turn. My turn, b, your turn. My turn, f, your turn. My turn, l, your turn. My turn, l, your turn. My turn, s, your turn. My turn, j, your turn. My turn, v, your turn. My turn, w, your turn. My turn, x, your turn. My turn, y, your turn. My turn, qu, your turn. My turn, z, your turn. My turn, z, your turn. Well done. Now, I would suggest that if you found any of those difficult or surprising, I find W and Y particularly difficult, just think of a word beginning with that sound. So window begins with a window. It's not w-indo. Same with Y. If I think of yogurt or yes or yesterday, the purest sound that I can hear is a y sound, which feels a bit wrong, I know, but that's what we need to be able to practice to get the saying of these sounds just right. So oral blending helps children to say each of the separate spoken sounds they hear, then push them together to blend to make a whole word. So an example would be b-ox, box, b-ox, box, l-egg, leg, leg, j-ug, jug, 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 s-un, sun, sun. It's quite straightforward, takes a bit of practice. Here's some for you to practice with me. We're going to do a I do, we do, you method. So I'm going to do it first, then we're going to do it together, then you're going to do it on your own. Let's go. My turn. B-e-l, bell. Should we do it together? B-e-l, bell. Now you're on your own. Perfect. My turn. Man. Together. Man. Your turn. And the final word. My turn. Tin. Together. Tin. You're on your own. Perfect. Now, obviously, because we're doing this as adults who can already read, we could do that exercise using the words and the letters in front of us. But when we're doing this with children, they're not going to be able to read, are they? So we're going to use pictures for this process, and this is what oral blending looks like. We don't have any letters there for the children to expect the children to read. We're expecting them just to listen to those sounds and see if they can match those spoken sounds, squish them all together to be able to hear the whole word, and in this case match it to a picture. I'm going to orally say a word. I'm going to say the segments, the separate sounds in the word, and you are going to try and blend that word back together and guess which picture I'm saying. This is something really simple that you can do with children. So here's the first word. N. N. That's right, it was the hen. Next one. Ox. 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 That's right, it was the fox. Next one. Pan. 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 That's right, well done. One more. Up. Up. That's right, it was the cup. So you can see that saying the sounds in the purest form, in the right way, as we practiced in the previous video, is really, really important for this. And oral blending is a critical pre-reading skill, which takes lots of practice. So you're going to need to access the activities and more besides the ones in this video to be able to practice this over and over and over again with real objects. That can be really, really helpful for our children. But more of that later. So how can we help with oral blending? Well, when the adult wants the children to orally blend, what we're wanting them to do is to be able to put those separate sounds back together, to squish them back together. Just as in the activity I've just done with you, the adult is going to break the word down into the separate sounds, ox, and it's down to the children then to squish that word back together in their head, ox, fox, and then match it either with a picture or an object. Oral segmenting is the opposite of that. Oral blending is that helps children to be able to read eventually. Oral segmenting is what helps children to spell eventually. It helps children to take a whole word and break it up into its separate spoken sounds. Cat, cat, bug, 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 man, an, man, hat, 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 pot, pot. Here's some examples for you to try. Can you segment the word dog? That's right, it's dog, dog. Can you segment the word pig? Pig. That's right, pig. Can you segment the word duck? That's right, it's duck, duck. How about the word goat? Goat, goat. Because the O and the A in oat make an O sound. And that's the smallest unit of sound. So remember when you're doing this oral blending and segmenting, you're focusing on the sounds, goat, and not the number of letters. And how can we help children with this oral segmenting process? It's the opposite to what we do when we're expecting them to blend. So when we're wanting children to orally segment, we're giving them the whole word, duck, and we want the children to do the opposite as before, because when they were blending, they were putting the words back together. When we want them to segment, we want them to break the word up into the separate spoken sounds. Cat, dog, goat. So it's the opposite. When we're orally blending, the adult is saying the sounds and the children are saying the whole words. When we want them to segment, the adult's giving them the bits, the parts of the spoken sounds, and the children are breaking them down into their separate sounds. And just the same as oral blending, oral segmenting needs lots and lots of practice, because this is going to be what is going to help the children to be brilliant spellers later on. And because these processes are the same but in reverse, we need to practice both of them and make sure children get equal practice at both of them. So what we've learnt so far: oral blending and segmenting develop phonemic awareness by requiring children to hear and say the separate spoken sounds in words. Children at this stage will be constructing, putting together, and deconstructing, breaking apart words that they hear without letter sound correspondences. Remember, they're just doing it by hearing the words and matching them to pictures. Adults must correctly model, demonstrate, and encourage the use of pure sounds. Oral blending helps children to say each of the separate spoken sounds they hear, then push them together to say a whole word. Oral segmenting helps children to break up a whole word and put it into its separate spoken sounds. Oral blending and segmenting are critical pre-reading skills and they need lots of practice. They're the reverse of one another, so what we need to make sure that we include is lots of practice at both oral blending and segmenting. So there you have it, a super simple early years online training to share with practitioners and parents of preschoolers to get them ready for school. Remember, this training is just the start, with over 5 hours of training videos included and heaps of ideas and tons of top tips. My high value ready for reading training answers all of your preschool phonics questions and more. So don't forget to check it out in the description. And if this early years online training has been useful, don't forget to give it a quick thumbs up, subscribe and click the bell to be notified for more videos just like this one. And let us know how you got on. We'd love to hear from you. See you soon.